all the possible outcomes. It's not just the little parts, not just the samples. The space part tells us everything. All right, so if we draw kind of like a bag here, I'm going to do like a paper bag like we had yesterday. Where do you sit? Up front. Remember? All right, in our bag, we're going to do some items. Yesterday, when we did our bags, what were our sample space? Like, what were the things that we could pick out of the bag? We had to pick sticks, and what were on the sticks? Colors. So what was one of the colors you could have picked out? Green. Pink. Purple. Blue. Orange. Okay, so all of those. Today we're going to do some shapes. Let's start with a circle. We'll draw a circle. And then let's do, what's a different shape we can use? Star. And let's do another circle. And we could do another star. Another star. Let's do a different shape. What other shape should we use? Triangle. Then we'll do a triangle, one more star, and a circle. Do all three on the bottom. All right, so when you take a look at this one, when we look at our sample space, we want to list what our options are. Okay, so what's one thing, when I reach in this bag and I pick something out, what's one item I could pick out? A star. Okay, what else could I pick out? Yep, a circle, and then also a triangle. But are they all going to be the same? Like if I reach in, is it equal chance I'll get a star, a circle, and a triangle? Could be any of them. No, because there's different amounts. So when we talk about our sample space and we list it, we want to make sure we're listing the amounts that we have. So how many stars are there? 4. How many circles? Circles? 3. Triangles? 2. So if I ask you to list the sample space, that's what it's asking you to do, is actually list out how many of everything there is. Okay, but most of the time I'm going to be asking you to find the total sample space, because that's what we need. So to find the total, we add together. So either you can add 4 plus 3 plus 2, or you can go back and just count how many are there in the bag. How many? 9. Yep. So on your quick check today, it's going to be asking you to find total sample space. So you have to count how many there are, or think about how many options there are. So in this bag, what are you probably going to pick out? What's the most likely? Star. What's the least likely? Triangle. Good. All right, we got probability now. We're going to define that word. I should have done a star up here, sorry. All right, those of you that are new to us, we take notes, and I don't grade your notes. You don't turn them in. There's no note checks, but why is it important to do your notes? Good, you can use them on the quick checks. You can use them on the one-pager. You can use them on the tests, yes. So we use them a lot. We go back to them a lot. And it just helps us remember things for better and longer. Remember on a test, can you use a partner's or somebody else's notebook? No, you can only use yours. All right, probability. That's that word that kind of sounds like probably. It's how often something happens. If it's going to happen, if it's not going to happen. And our number is always between 0 and 1. So number between 0 and 1. To represent how likely an event will happen. That's kind of a long definition, so make sure you get that all written down. A number between 0 and 1 to represent how likely an event will happen. All right, so as we look at this, we're going to draw a number line, maybe skip a line here because we are going to write above the number line. So I'm going to do a number line. It's going to start at 0, and it's going to go up to 1. So it ends at 1. Now, sometimes people exaggerate when they talk about probability, and they'll say, like, it's 1,000% chance it's going to happen. Okay, there's technically, that's not academic. There's not 1,000% chance. The highest it can go to is 1. What percent is 1? 100%, yeah. So the highest percent we can technically go is 100%. Thank you. Okay, 100%. The lowest we can go is 0. What percent is 0? 0%. All right, if something is a 0% chance, okay, there's a 0% chance that President Trump is going to walk in this room. Okay, I know for a fact President Trump is not going to walk in this room. How do I know that? It's not even in the state right now, right? Okay, so there's a 0% chance. That means it's going to be impossible. It will never happen. Okay, if you ask somebody out on a date and they say 0% chance of that happening, they're saying, no, I don't want to date you. All right, if it's a 1 or 100% though, what does that mean? There's a 100% chance that there's a test at the end of this chapter. Definitely, it's for certain. It's going to happen. We know for a fact. Now, right in the middle, so try and find the middle as best as you can. What decimal comes right between 0 and 1? 0.5. If I wrote that as a fraction, what's 0.5 as a fraction? 1/2. And as a percent, if you think what's right between 0% and 100% is 50%. Can anyone think of something that has a 50% chance? Half and half? When you flip a coin, right? I got a really dirty penny here. Okay, when I flip a coin, it only has two options. It can land on tails or it can land on heads. Is it going to land on one more often than the other? Theoretically? No, it should be every other, right? Okay, so that's an even chance. It could go either way. It's a 50-50 chance. Even chance. Hi. All right, so then we have percents and fractions and decimals in between. If it's less than 50%, So let's say there's only a 10% chance of rain. If there's a 10% chance of rain, are you going to bring an umbrella with you? Everywhere you go, because there's 10% chance? No. It's probably not going to rain. So if it's in between 0 and 50, this is unlikely. It's probably not going to happen, but it still could. Okay, if you've ever seen like a TV show, there used to be a line in the movies that's like, would you ever go out with me? And the guy's like, or the girl's like, not even if you were the last man on earth. And he's like, so there's a chance. Okay, that would be unlikely. I don't know. All right, and then if it's above 50%, it's somewhere between 50 and 100. It's in that range. If there's an 80% chance of rain, does that mean it's going to rain today? Probably. It might not rain, but it's probably going to rain. So that's our likely. That's like our probably. Yep, it's probably going to happen. All right, so that's kind of our scale. So as we work, we're going to be looking at this scale. That's a lot of your work today, or on your quick check, one of your big questions is figuring out where it goes based on the number, the percent, or the decimal, or the actual event itself. All right, now we're actually going to talk about how to find probability. When we find probability, we use a capital P. And then in the parentheses, we put the event. So we'll just say A for now. So sometimes there'll be a word in there, like probability of, like in your quick check, it's like probability of picking a quarter or picking a dime. Sometimes it'll just be a number, or we'll have these events defined if it's like something really crazy long. Okay, and the way that we say this out loud when we see that capital P in the parentheses is we know that that capital P in parentheses means probability. So we would say probability of A. So when we read this out loud, or you're asking for help, today if you're asking for P dime, I'm going to be like, what's P dime? And you're just going to say probability of picking a dime. Okay, you want to make sure you're talking in a way that makes sense to people. All right, to find the probability, it's a fraction. In the numerator of the fraction, the top is the amount of A there is. So in the sample space, how many A's are there? Or how many of the thing there is, out of the total amount. Yeah, I'll get it. Sorry. Thanks. Okay, so the amount of A over the total amount. All right, we're going to do an example here. You need about I have about a third of my page left, so if you have about a third, that you should be able to fit it. You need about 9 lines, 9 or 10 lines. Okay, if you don't have that amount, you might just need to go on the next page, or as we write, you might go on to the next. Okay. All right, for our example today, we're going to talk about rolling a dice. Now, Webster Dictionary, the people who make words and decide what actually is a word and what's not a word, said it's okay to talk about dice as a single or a plural. It used to be if I just have one dice, what would we call one dice? Does anyone remember? It was just a die. Yep. Okay, so I'm going to put that there just as a reminder. Die and dice and the probability unit mean the same. Die just means it's one. Dice can be one or more. Okay, it used to be that we had to call it a die, but they changed it now. You can now just call it a dice. Okay? So if you see that word die in any of the problems or examples, remember die means dice. It's not talking about like death. Okay, it's talking about a dice. All right, so let's first talk about our sample space with the dice. What are my options if I want to list my options? What can I roll when I roll a regular dice? I can roll a 1. What else can I roll? A 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Good. So how many total, if I wanted a total sample space, how many options are there total? 6. Good. All right, we're going to do 4 examples here. I know it feels kind of like a lot, but you guys are crushing it. It's kind of a lot of notes right now. All right, so as we look at it, the first one, problem 1, we're going to do the probability of rolling a 5. So I'm going to put P and then parentheses 5. When we talk about rolling a dice, since I already said we're rolling it, we don't need to put that roll in there or like picking a coin. We don't need to put pick. We can just put 5. That means rolling a 5. Okay, so a fraction. We'll always start with a fraction as we're finding it. How many 5s are there on the dice? 1. Out of how many total? 6. Okay, if we can simplify the fraction, we want to do that. Okay, so I'm going to put in 1 divided by 6, and I'm going to add that fraction just to double check. Nope, can't simplify it. So we're going to write it as a decimal. 0.166666666. They have the 7 at the end because eventually they rounded it. We're going to show that it's repeating. Does anyone remember what is the symbol for repeating? Yeah, that little line on the top. And we're going to just put it, make sure it's only above the 6. Because it's a 6 that's repeating. All right, and then we do want to write it as a percent. So 0.1666666 as a percent. A couple ways to do percent. You can kind of think about moving that decimal over 2 times. So 1, 2. Or you can think about it as multiplying by 100. So if I do that times 100 in my calculator, I get 16.66666. We are going to round to the nearest percent. So do I want 16% or 17%? 17%, yeah. Okay, if you need to write that we did times 100. That can be helpful, especially if you're somebody who struggles with percent. Some of you are really good at just automatically doing that percent and knowing. Some of us struggle a little bit with that. Okay, so if it's a 17%, I'm going to look at my scale. Is that impossible, unlikely, even chance, likely, or certain? Where would 17% fall? Unlikely. Why unlikely? It's less than 50%, but it's not 0. It's in between 0 and 50. Good. So on your practice today, on your quick check, some problems are going to give you a fraction and ask you to figure out if it's likely or unlikely. In order to do that, you can always change it into a decimal and a percent if fractions are tough for you. All right, number 2, we got 3 more. We're doing 4 total. Number 2, we're going to do probability of having an even number. Okay, a lot of times with probability, we're going to talk about evens and odds. If you ever go to Las Vegas or a casino, sometimes that's one of the games is you bet on evens or odds. So it's important to know how many there are. All right, remember even numbers means like we're skip counting. Skip counting. What do we start at with even numbers? 2. Good. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I could keep going and say 7, 8. But is there an 8 on our dice? Nope. So I'm just going to list the ones that we're talking about. We're talking about 2, 4, and 6. Those are my options. So how many are there total options that are even? 3 out of how many total? 6. All right, so 3 out of 6, if I make that a fraction, what can I divide simplified fraction, what can I divide both 3 and 6 by? Good, 3. Some people, they think really, really fast, and they say it's 2 because they're just dividing. Remember in Desmos, if simplifying is not your deal, you hit that circle with the 2 squares, and it makes it 1/2. Good. Okay, 1/2 as a decimal. 0.5. Now remember, if you move that decimal over, we're going to move it over 2 times. So 0.55% or 50%? 50%. If you're not sure, in your calculator, just type in times 100. Okay, and we get that 50%. So is 50% chance impossible, unlikely, even chance, likely, or certain? Even chance. Yep. Another word for even chance is equally likely. I'm going to write that here because it's equally likely, meaning it could go one way or the other. If you wrote even chance already, that's fine. I just want to make sure you know equally likely and even chance mean the same. All right, 2 more. You guys crushing this? Number 3. All right, the probability of not 3. So our keyword there is not, meaning I don't want the 3. So if I don't want a 3, what are numbers that I do want? Perfect, thanks, Lily. 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6. Anything but the 3. Another way to figure out how many there are is there's 1 3 out of 6, so how many are not 3s? 5. We can just do 6 minus 1 and we get 5. Or you can list them and count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of 6 options. Oh my gosh. Okay, so 5 out of 6. If you want to see a fraction, that one doesn't simplify. The last question on your quick check, you are writing fractions simplified. Please make sure you read the directions because people are really confused on that one. They were trying to do percents. They were trying to do decimals. Simplified fractions. Okay, so 0.8 and then 3 repeating. Okay, if it's hard to visualize that decimal and decide if it's going to be 83% or 84%, you can always say times 100 in your calculator. And with that times 100, we say it's 83.3. So is 83.3 going to stay at 83 or change to 84? Stay, good. 83%. And what category would we put 83% in? Likely, good. Probably going to happen, but not exactly. Why isn't it certain? When I roll a dice, why is it not certain I won't get a 3? Because there's still a 3, right? It's still there. So it's not certain. There's still a 3, but most of the time we won't get a 3. All right, last one, number 4. Probability of 14. So the probability of rolling a 14. Now, those of you that play some games, you might know the D20s and D100s and D50s, right? There's other dice where there's lots and lots and lots and lots of sides. Today we're just talking about a normal dice. So on this dice, how many sides have the number 14 on them? None. So there's 0 chance if I roll this, it's not going to magically turn into a 14. Okay, so 0, which is what percent? 0%. And what category is 0%? Impossible. It will never happen. Okay, I know that there's more dice. We're going to actually use some of those dice that are more than 6-sided dice later on. But for now, today we're just using a regular one. And on a regular one, it would be impossible to get a 14. All right, questions?